Hello, my name is Josh Falwell, and I'm going to be doing a quick infographic presentation on the importance of recovery in an exercise prescription. So, the first slide is about what do I mean? Many athletes and trainers believe more is always better. While this may be true for some people and in some populations, um, there are many benefits to a recovery that should be explored. A lot of people interpret exercise and training and with a trainer or high intensity exercise as being very intense every day, no break, when that's not very true at all. Recovery periods are very important, and the best athletes utilize recovery very, very frequently. A lot of beginner exercisers and athletes are anxious to lose weight or compete and do too much too early, which actually hurts them in the long run. So, not being familiar with recovery periods or not familiar with exercise in general, people can often gas themselves or do some overtraining, train too much, and by not incorporating those recovery interspersed within the workout itself and then interspersed within the workout prescription daily or every other day doing a recovery day, um, they can end up in injury and put them out of the competition or the workout prescription for several weeks. It's more than a physiologic health, but the longevity of the exercise program itself. What I mean by this is by also overtraining, you can also burn out by doing too much too fast, especially if you're new and you're not taking advantage of the recovery days and thinking, I'm going to work out every day. I'm going to lose a lot of weight. It's going to be awesome. I'm going to look a lot better. After a week, you're going to think, this is horrible. I'm extremely sore. I don't feel good. And it's because you're not taking time to recover and let the body do the healing and growing that it needs to do. So the benefits to recovery, I've kind of listed this out. It reduces your muscle fatigue, allows for improved performance, decreases the risk for injury, as I mentioned before, and allows time for the body and mind to heal. So not only does recovery have a mechanical component to it in your muscles, and if you're extremely sore, you're likely to lose form in a rep or trip and fall when doing a sprint interval or something, which is again causing that risk for injury. But not only does it have that mechanical component, it also has a mental component. Recovery will really help you relax. A lot of times you can get anxious whenever you have a lot of exercise piling on top of each other, on top of each other, and then on top of work or school. In that recovery day, or taking a day to go into a pool and use an active recovery through swimming, or even if it's relaxing at home. These are days that can actually help you mentally too. So muscles, we've all experienced a sore muscle at one time or another, and it is completely natural. A lot of times people will misinterpret a sore muscle for an injured muscle, um, but that's not true. And if you're experiencing sore muscles after doing what seems like light amounts of work, it's probably just your conditioning levels, or if you're new to it, you should expect it. While sore muscles alone isn't necessarily a problem, continuing to exercise on fatigued muscles regularly can lead to damage. So, once we do complete an exercise and these muscles are sore or fatigued, and then we continue to exercise on these sore and fatigued muscles, they're not going to be able to produce as much power, produce as much speed, and actually gain from the exercises that we're doing. The benefits are going to be impeded because of the amount of soreness and damage, the tearing to the cross bridges in our muscles that we're developing with each exercise. In sports, continuing to lift the same upper body muscle groups day in and day out, or pushing yourself in football in the same motions, will eventually decrease performance and actually set the athletes and others back on gains that were previously made. So it might be great to go all out 2 weeks. You're working your upper body, your chest is getting huge, you feel like you're getting a lot stronger, and then boom, you end up straining a pectoral muscle because you've done upper body every single day while pushing each other on the offensive line in football, and that strained pectoral muscle will keep you out for a month to 2 months, and you'll have to recover and you won't know what caused it. You might think it's a freak accident, but it's actually the workload that you're working at, and you're liable to do it again. So, risk for injury, all of this is kind of talking about risk for injury, as I mentioned in my last slide. But Understanding our limits are important, especially when we're first beginning exercise. My last example was a football player. They're usually very aware of their exercise levels. A professional athlete will never push himself or lift the same upper group every single day. They're typically smarter than that. They have trainers that'll help them with that. And when you're new and you're starting out on your own, it can be hard. It can be hard to know what to do, when to do it, how much to do it. And you kind of need to start slow and feel your way out. And if you feel yourself getting sore or you feel yourself gassing out, as people would say, you got to take that day to recover, maybe the next day to recover, see how you feel the next day. Maybe don't keep pushing yourself that day. So I have this is more than just straining or pulling a muscle. Exercising while fatigued will lead to losing form, stepping incorrectly, dropping a weight. This is definitely relevant to older populations if they might push themselves. Maybe they were lifters back in the day and they were able to lift a lot of weight. Now, when they're older and they've had some deconditioning, some atrophy of their muscles, they're not able to lift as much, and they go really hard one day, lift a lot of weight, um, end up dropping a weight because it's too much and they can't hold it up. And that can cause more injury. While none of these are fatal, they'll cause people to take a lot of time off and only lead to a large setback. And financially, it can be a problem as well. Psychological. So there's, like I mentioned before, there's a psychological component. There are many mental aspects of exercise that take a large toll with overuse and burnout. Exercise is a great way to reduce stress, reduce anxiety, but when you are burning yourself out or over exercising and it's becoming the main focus of your day or your daily attention, it can actually increase that stress and amplify that stress and anxiety. Without recovery days, people will lose their sense of autonomy and control. This is how we prevent that feeling of exercise taking over our life, feeling like we need to go exercise instead of I want to go exercise, it's really benefiting me. Um, Exercising too frequently and too much, it'll start to take over. Recovery days are a good way to prevent that from happening. People will no longer enjoy the exercise. That's playing into that last bullet point. Solutions. So you don't have to stop exercising altogether in order to rest. I mentioned active recovery before. It's actually better to focus on a day, on a range of motion, yoga, instead of that high intensity. So we're still exercising, we're still moving around, we're not sitting down, we're up moving, we're working on maybe our shoulder rotation or our knee rotation or something different than just lifting a lot of heavy weight. Adding variability to an exercise will increase the longevity. So again, another way to increase your longevity to an exercise program, especially if you're new, instead of just doing the same thing every single day, change it up. Work on a day for rest, active rest, recovery, and it'll help add that variability to your exercise. And then I have it'll improve other aspects of the body while you recover physically. So we've talked about mentally, we talked about in your muscles. Um, Overall, it'll make you feel better, your mood, attitude, it'll make different adjustments like that. For athletes or high level competitors like CrossFit, the solution to make sure you're getting at least 24 hours in between each muscle group is a good idea to not lift the same muscle group every single day if you can avoid it. You want to get at least 24 hours if you're a high level competitor, probably 24 to 48 hours if you're a beginner or intermediate or just a normal exerciser. Every prescription should have a rotation of 3 or 4 muscle groups that cycle each day. So there is around 2 days in between both sets of the same muscle group. Um, a lot of people like to do a leg day, upper body. They can do an arm day, back day, chest day, days designated to actual lifting groups. And then after you do one day, you'll do a different lifting group the second day, then a different muscle group the third day, and so forth. And then eventually you'll repeat. But by then, you won't be lifting while those arm muscles are sore because you took 3 days in between. This gives time for that specific muscle group to heal, and then also, again, increases your variability. This way, you're not doing the same exercise every day. You're working different muscle groups. Sleep. Sleep is a large contributor to recovery that the body undergoes. Um, Hopefully, all of us sleep every day, but a lot of us don't get the amount of sleep that we need. It's recommended that everyone gets 7 to 9 hours of sleep, but especially prior to a day of exercise. This is relevant for a competition. If you're a high school cross country runner and you run every Saturday, you want to make sure you're getting enough sleep this 2 days before, day before, and then even the day after. Most of the body's muscle synthesis and tissue recovery is occurring while we sleep, along with the release of HGH, which is our human growth hormone. This is released. Um, it's released not only while we sleep, but a lot of it's released while we sleep and can actually help these muscles grow and help us develop. So, what do I recommend? Beginners, I suggest adding 2 to 3 days dedicated to recovery. So, working maybe 4 to 5 days a week, with the other 2 to 3 days being recovery, with at least one range of motion or some other type of stimulus to keep you active on one of those days. So if you have 3 days dedicated to recovery, spend one day working on your flexibility and the other two watching your favorite TV show, just making sure that you're recovering instead of exercising high intensity. Intermediate, I suggest 1 to 2 days a week of recovery to ensure that injury is avoided, um, that you're getting maximum efficiency, focus on your sleep, make sure that you're not working out the same muscle groups. Usually by intermediate, you have a good awareness of your limitations and what you want to do. Advanced, the group doesn't necessarily need any days off, but of course they will not hurt. Just make sure you're cycling your muscle groups, getting enough sleep, and allowing time for your muscles to recover. So that's it for this infographic. Hopefully you guys learned something and make sure to take advantage of recovery.